Okay, so we've seen a lot of different alternate versions of Mark across the entirety of the Invincible multiverse, but Sinister Mark, this dude is actively just pure evil, and he's probably one of the most interesting, in totality of the way that his character ends up out of all of the Invincible variants. As I said, this dude is just pure evil. Unlike the main Mark, who, struggles with morality and all of the other things, Sinister Mark fully embraces that, kind of more villainish way, that Viltrumite way, except he goes so much further. This guy doesn't just conquer planets, he actively enjoys it, and he isn't just following orders. He takes pleasure in that destruction, relishing in the fear that he installs instead of, our Mark, who acts like, with like the hesitation that we really see so much with our main universe Mark. He acts with precision, wiping out resistances before it even begins. But obviously, like, this character, and the reason why I'm making this video, like why he's the most twisted variant of Mark that we've seen, is one, due to the specific kind of character that he is and the events that happen after he gets transported by like Angstrom into that little universe where all of the Invincibles are kind of just left alone to be located. But before we get to that, I also have to talk about why he's so terrifying. And that's really because of the fact that we know Omni Man as a character, yeah, he might be ruthless, but even he had a soft spot for Earth. Sinister Mark, nah. He actively, will wipe out entire civilizations without a second thought, no hesitation, no remorse, just absolute domination. He even betrays other Viltrumites when it benefits him, and it looks more like someone took all of Mark's potential and twisted it into something so much more monstrous. And hilariously enough, the scariest part is he's calculating. He doesn't just, overpower his enemies. He studies them and exploits their weaknesses and, dismantles them piece by piece. He's a conqueror with the mind of honestly a war general, and makes him even so much stronger and harder to deal with. Now, we have to also talk about how he compares with other versions of Mark, because we know most Marks struggle with some kind of power. Like, some resist their Viltrumite nature, some give in, but Sinister Mark is very different. He's not just a conqueror, he's strategic, he's brutal, and worst of all, as I've already said, he enjoys it. He's the kind of villain that doesn't just win, but he makes sure that his enemies suffer. Unlike the other evil versions of Mark, who have many doubts or inner conflicts that we've seen, just like talking about the fact that they didn't do this, and some of them wanted, some of them honestly just wanted to take Debbie and bring her back home or whatever. Sinister Mark has none of that. He is fully committed to just being that apex predator of the universe, and if our Mark fights for hope, Sinister Mark fights just to extinguish it. Now, kind of coming back and talking about the little thing that happens after they get transported into that little universe altogether with Levi, like with Angstrom and whatever, like, and they get transported over there. We have to talk about all of the events that occur once they're there. As we know, like, we saw that in like the actual show, that there is basically nothing there, no food whatsoever. And this version of Mark, instead of, trying to find whatever kind of food, they resort to cannibalism, and it ends up where he is quite literally just eating all of the other Marks, to the point that most of them honestly end up dying by his hand alone. And we do have a little fun and like little funny part about the entire thing, where the Mark that has an entire mask over his head, the entire black mask, somehow convinces this Mark, like somehow convinces Sinister Mark, that he does not exist, which is honestly hilarious to think about. But either way, the fact that this Sinister Mark is just such like, a terrifying and twisted villain. Do one, obviously, cannibalism. He obviously has to be the most twisted version of Mark, just due to that, and due to the fact that he actually probably is a lot more, in tune with just being completely a villain and menacing in terms of any other Mark variant that we have. But that is just something that's honestly hilarious when I think about it, because he is just so overpoweredly, different from most of the other Marks that we've seen. And yes, a lot of them are somewhat villainous, and some of them have a lot more, like, anger, like Mohawk Mark or whatever. But he kind of is that kind of version of Mark leading the charge, which, if we have all the other Marks together, having one lead proves how strong he is. But Obviously, we also have to talk about what made him become this way. And honestly, what led Mark down the sinister path is probably kind of similar to most other Marks, because every Mark has a version of them that starts off with some level of humanity, but something, broke with this one. Maybe in this universe, like maybe in this universe, Nolan never hesitated, never showed weakness, and molded Mark into that ultimate Viltrumite warrior. Maybe Earth was obliterated earlier or whatever, but like leaving Mark with nothing to hold on to, because we all know that the main thing that usually changes for almost every Invincible variant is their time spent with Debbie and the amount of time that was actively spent being more accustomed to the human side of Earth and all of that. So we kind of already know that Debbie probably just wasn't in the picture as much, so we at least have to know, okay, that's probably the biggest difference. But Sinister Mark is basically what would have happened if Mark never had a conscience. He is proof that Invincible could easily be one of the greatest villains in the universe if he wanted to, and his existence is a dark mirror showing us what happens when power is left literally unchecked and morality is completely abandoned. But let me know, what do you think? Is there a version of Mark that is just absolutely worse than him? Let me know down in the comments, and don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell to get more videos on the Invincible universe as a whole. But I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.